Hi, I am Jairam Reddy. I will be talking on second aspect of climate change. The topic being humans are exploiting nature. What are the human activities that significantly altered the global temperature since the start of the Industrial Revolution in the mid 18th century? The human population, number one, is the human population increased from 1 billion in 1800s to nearly 7.7 billion in last year. That means nearly 8 times in slightly over 2 centuries. The second thing, the livestock population, the cattle, they produce methane, powerful greenhouse gas. Their number has risen to 1.4 billion. The third one is about 30 to 50% of the global land surface was exploited by humans. What I mean by exploited the land surface is tropical rainforests were wiped out at a fast pace. That means it releases the stored carbon dioxide. And second thing is species extinction take place when you destroy the forests. Then building of dams and river diversions become very common in the last 2.5 centuries. And more than half of the available fresh water was used. The fourth thing that happened was the energy usage by the human population grew by 16-fold during this time. That means 16-fold increase of energy usage. The very first effect will be nearly 160 million tons of atmospheric sulfur dioxide per year is added to the atmosphere. This is more than twice the sum of its natural emissions. There are some natural sources which emit sulfur dioxide, and that is very, very less compared to what has been released by increasing our energy generation. Number 5, the more nitrogen fertilizer was produced and applied in agriculture. So when you apply more nitrogen fertilizer, the very nitrogen cycle is disturbed. And secondly, the nitric oxide produced by burning the fossil fuels and biomass will also extend the emissions. Number 6, the most important thing that happened is the fossil fuel burning for mainly 3 aspects, I would say. There are a number of aspects where we burn the fossil fuels, but the main sectors are power generation, electricity generation. The second is the transport. The third is the agriculture. And by burning so much of fossil fuels in these 3 sectors, substantial increase in greenhouse gases took place. Now, there were some calculations how much took place, because this is a very important for the climate change, increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide increased by 30% and methane increased by more than 100%, reaching their highest levels of concentration in the atmosphere, which never happened in the last 400 millennia, right? Recently, just last week, there was a paper released which shows the increase of methane by 10% between 2000 and 2017 in these last 2 decades, by 10%. And this has been found due to, one, the livestock farming, right, and 2, oil and gas industry. In the livestock farming is because the red meat demand increase in certain regions of the world. You know very well, people eat cattle meat. So because of that increase in food demand, meat demand, the livestock farming has increased. And the oil and gas industry, which were always the sources of pollution, now that has been going on, right? So the mining part of it, that is excavation part of it, then the leaks from the wells, and then from the pipelines, and from the distribution systems. Now, why this is so important? Because methane lifetime is 12 years in the atmosphere compared to more than 100 years for carbon dioxide. But methane is more dangerous because it is 20 times more potent than the carbon dioxide. So as a greenhouse gas, methane is more damaging than the carbon dioxide, though methane's existence in the atmosphere is only for 12 years. There are some natural sources also from which methane gets emitted. One is the wetlands, right? You must have seen wetlands some places. These wetlands are also fast disappearing all over the world. And then permafrost. Permafrost is important. Permafrost is, certain regions in the North Pole, South Pole area, right, which is covered by feet of snow that has been melting due to this global warming, and the land surface is showing up. And this land is not ordinary, it is a frozen land because it was under the ice for years and years and years. So when it is exposed, from that methane is coming out. You see the interesting part. So melting of snow over the thick snow areas of north and south poles, glaciers, etc., results in the increase of methane in the atmosphere. Now, these are the 6 things that developed during these 2.5 centuries, which has resulted in more greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. These are the human activities. Now, coal firing is not only for thermal plants, not only in thermal plants for electricity generation. It is used in cement industry, in steel industry. See, the next big sources of pollution, carbon dioxide pollution. And then laying of roads. So we destroy forests to put on roads. So when you destroy forests, you destroy vegetation, you are releasing the carbon dioxide in that vegetation. Then vehicular transport, right? How many cars, how many buses, how many trucks are being introduced onto the roads? You yourself must have seen, you compare yourself from your younger days to the present age, how much traffic has increased. And then they don't run freely, they run on either diesel or petrol or gas. So therefore, the human pressure on Earth system thus significantly increased, resulting in the rise of human-induced emissions. These human-induced emissions are called anthropogenic emissions. Consequently, the global climate system changed and may considerably change in the natural behavior for many millennia. The German Nobel laureate in chemistry, Paul Crutzen, you may be familiar with the name, he appropriately called the present period as Anthropocene. Anthropocene, that means human-dominated era in many ways, supplementing the warming period of Holocene that has been going on for the last 10 to 12,000 years. So, geologically, we are in a new era dominated by not by the geological factors or other factors, but by the human activities, which is stressing the earth much more. So it can be assumed that Anthropocene had begun in the latter part of 18th century, because that is our reference point from where we have been observing the increase of emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. Because the analysis also, the work of Professor Crutzen also shows that the air trapped in polar ice at that time was examined, and it was found that the growing concentrations of carbon dioxide and methane just started at that time. See, ice core studies. So he took the ice core and took the air bubbles locked up in that ice core and studied the composition of that. He found the carbon dioxide, methane were there, and periodic measurements shown those concentrations are increasing. So Industrial Revolution therefore was probably the starting point for increase of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. That's why Crutzen rightly called that we have entered into Anthropocene area from Holocene. The relatively favorable environment of the Holocene, see the earlier Holocene, started about 10 to 12,000 years ago. It was very robust to the human actions. In a way, I would put it this way, humans did not exploit it. Probably they helped the Holocene and used it to develop agriculture, and many complex societies have come up, including the present one, and they developed and flourished. So Holocene in a way was a robust geological period when the humans were able to enjoy and start facilities like agriculture, then building up cities, civilizations, etc. Before the Holocene period, we know very well, I think I mentioned it in my earlier talks, that conditions on Earth were too volatile with fluctuating temperatures for humans to settle down and develop in one place. This stable environment of Holocene encouraged humans to invest in a big way in their natural resources rather than merely exploit it. But the following Anthropocene was a period of exploitation. Humans therefore now become very much dependent on the natural reserves to the extent of exploitation to have their lifestyles, to have developed the technologies, probably to develop the economies, and for the progress of the society they live. You may say, are these not wanted for the human welfare? They are wanted, but at what price? Risking our natural resources. Since the beginning of the Anthropocene in the late 18th century, humans were effectively pushing the planet for many important processes of the Earth system. The impacts of this warming over recent decades all over the world have been observed. Because for these reasons, the greenhouse gas has increased, it resulted in the global warming, and then next it went to the stage of climate change. So what are those observations, or what are those impacts of this global warming? First and foremost is the melting of glaciers in almost all continents, glaciers on the slopes of the high mountains, melting of ice in the Greenland, melting of ice in the Antarctica, that is the South Pole, melting of sea ice in the Arctic, and permafrost. You see the two interesting, did you notice the change? In the South Pole, Antarctica is a continent. In the North Pole, Arctic is a ocean. It's a frozen ocean, Arctic. Here it is the land, Antarctic, the coldest area, even now on the globe. Number two, rising of sea levels. Why? Because these glaciers, the ice, everything melted, so they are flowing into the oceans. So there is a rising of sea level affecting the small island countries, especially in the South Pacific. I mentioned even names last time: Tuvalu, Kiribati, Solomon Islands, and so on. And leading to the danger of submerge at any point of time if this sea level rise goes on increasing. Number three, the changing patterns of precipitation and evaporation. Patterns of precipitation, that means rainfall, and evaporation. Result is it affects agriculture. In turn, food production, food supply, and food security. And second is the water resources. Water resources needed by humans, by plants, by animals, insects, right? And by every life existing on earth. Number four, more intense heat and heat waves and desertification, droughts, cyclones, and devastating floods. These are all connected. Heat waves, even this summer, just 2 months ago, we have seen a place in Rajasthan recording 50 degrees centigrade. Unbelievable. 50 degrees centigrade. And we have all accustomed getting used to 42, 43 degrees centigrade, which at least I have not seen in my younger days. So without knowledge, you know how the temperatures are increasing. And this leads to drought. This leads to desertification, extension of deserts. This also leads to cyclones in some areas on the globe. And cyclone leads to floods, sudden floods. And the floods are very devastating. So these are the impacts we have been seeing, right? Every 2 months, 3 months, we see from the meteorological office, there is a cyclone developing in Bay of Bengal and somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico, the western coast. These have become very common. They were not there earlier. These impacts revealed that warming was real and progressing very fast in terms of change in climate. So, the human pressure on Earth system, if continued at the present pace, at this rate, it could threaten the critical biophysical systems and may cause very abrupt or sometimes even irreversible environmental changes that would be damaging or even catastrophic for the human life. That's what we are going to get at the end of the day. The famous British economist Nicholas Stern, a very famous name in the environmental economics, is a professor of economics and government and also head of the Grantham Research Institute of Climate Change and Environment at the London School of Economics. Very famous man. And he observed even 13 years back in 2007 that the present is a very sticky situation, he said. Sticky situation. And he made a very interesting observation as an economist that the present model of economic and social development all over in general remained largely ignorant are unmindful to the risk of human-induced environmental disasters. They have not taken that into account. No cost has been calculated. No loss has been calculated. That is the type of academic models that the world was enjoying in those days. It came from the mouth of a very illustrated economist. Therefore, as the Anthropocene era reveals, it is essential to know the range of variability that shows the Holocene as a reference point to understand the currently happening global climatic changes. Now, okay, it keeps going. The average temperature, the mean temperature of the earth is increasing. So what next? Climate researchers set a limit of 2 degrees centigrade rise in the global mean temperature to avoid trigger a series of disasters. Why 2 degrees centigrade? It doesn't appear to have any scientific basis, except that the figure evolved in the international debates on climate. Around that time, staying within 2 degrees centigrade, though appeared very challenging, but could be highly achievable, at least in the European Union. So there were the efforts already being made to stop this global warming. So they thought 2 degrees, setting a limit of 2 degrees centigrade was something, though difficult, but still our efforts could make it achievable. And then, understandably, at the Conference of Parties, they call it at COP. So this is a meet of the climate scientists to take stock of what is happening every year under the United Nations. So in Paris 2005, the COP 21st meeting took place, where 185 countries represented, not by their ordinary representatives. Most of these countries came with their presidents and prime ministers, because they decided to officialize this 2 degrees centigrade limit. So that's why the Paris Agreement was called at that time as a historic agreement. 185 countries come together, discuss the repercussions, and then decided we should not exceed 2 degrees, beyond 2 degrees by end of this century. That means 2100. And all the details worked out. What the efforts to be taken. What are the limits of the greenhouse gases that each country can go. So each country gave its own figures. Nobody forced them with the existing situation in their country. And people like President Obama. President Barack Obama was the President of the United States at that time, so he came personally. Then many people like represented their prime ministers. It was a historic agreement. And they said, if possible, we could stop even at 1.5 degrees centigrade, which many people think is not possible, but it's a challenge. Why not we work towards that? So to meet this target of 2 degrees centigrade, you know what has to be done? The current greenhouse gas emissions must drop at least from 40 to 70% by mid 21st century, that is by 2050, where in 2020, in 30 years, we should be able to get down the emissions to that extent, 40 to 70%. But in reality, you know what is happening? The atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are still rising. as thousands of new coal power thermal plants came online. And more potent methane gas is growing much faster. Why? Because many countries are economically advancing, their populations are growing, and therefore there has been demand for more and more of energy. Our lives are locked up with the energy usage. For everything we require electricity, power. So as the population increases, as people become rich, as the economy of the country increased, so more energy is required, and coal plants, well known for the last 2 centuries, are gas running plants, so they continue to grow. Here is the contradiction. So even countries which never used thermal power or maybe sparsely used, for example Egypt and Pakistan, they depended more on the hydropower. Even they started putting the coal-fired thermal plants. And countries like Japan, South Korea, even our own country India, are increasing the coal share in our energy mix, because all our energy, electricity is not coming from one source. We have different things like coal, gas, oil, and the so-called renewable energies. But the coal share should decrease if we have to keep check on the global warming, but it is increasing. This is another issue we are facing. If the so though several clean energy technologies like solar, wind, clean coal, biofuels, nuclear are all available. They are all mature technologies and we can use. And we know in the last few years how the solar energy, the cost of solar energy has come down and has become almost cost competitive even with the thermal power. But there are some issues with this. Nuclear, people still talk about the safety issues with the disposal of nuclear waste. With the clean coal technologies, the carbon dioxide has to be, if you have to be clean coal technology used to generate power, you have to catch the carbon dioxide before it gets into the atmosphere. There is a technique called CCS, carbon capture and storage. I will not talk because it will take more time. This CCS is expensive today and not able to penetrate much, but the efforts are not minimum. They are still trying. If one day that could succeed, even thermal plants with clean coal technologies can work because it will not allow carbon dioxide to get in. So third thing is, these production of these clean energies should be aggressively improved, expanded, because there is a cost factor. Unless the volumes increase, the cost will not come down. Another danger is our transport system. Burning too much of petrol, diesel, oil, gas, etc. That should be changed. Change it to what? Run on electricity. So if you run on this electricity, then the battery system is required, and the battery technology must improve, and the storage technology must improve, and then much more promising hydrogen technology must come in. This only can solve our fuel for the transport system. I will make one statement from a great person before I conclude. Professor Robert Jackson of Stanford University is head of the Global Carbon Project. He said as early as July 15th, just last week, if the world warms beyond 2 degrees centigrade, listen, if the world warms beyond 2 degrees centigrade, due to the continuous rise of greenhouse gases, tens of millions of people could be exposed to life-threatening heat waves, to freshwater shortages, and coastal flooding from the sea level rise. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it is for the day, and I will see you again next time. Thank you.